called the Injury Wizard. It's one of the, let's see, it's the fourth wizard we've introduced to EG Force and to our client base. If you like the Enrollment Wizard, if you like the Elements Wizard, if you like the LOA Wizard, um, you'll probably like this wizard. It's along the same lines. It's about getting better results faster, both for you, especially for you, but also for us. So let's dive in here. We're gonna tell the story of Ricky Bobby, actually Risky Bobby today. If we have the same taste in movies, you might recognize that name. But let's talk about our agenda real quick and we'll get started. So first off, we're going to talk about current state of injury reporting. How is it today? What are the challenges that we're trying to overcome? We're going to get into injury reporting legal requirements review, just the basics of what has to be done when an injury happens and what part of that is on our side and what part of that is on yours. We'll talk about the purpose and benefits of the Injury Wizard specifically. It's all about saving time, saving money, and improving treatment for the employee. We'll go through an actual live Injury Wizard demonstration, and then we'll take questions and answers. And this whole thing is about saving you time and money, and we're going to try to get through this in 30 minutes. That may be a tough stretch, but this is about protecting your time. So we're gonna, if you have questions as we're going through, feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A feature within the Teams app, and we'll get those answered after we get through the presentation. All right, so what is the current state? How is it now? Currently, when a client has an injury, they typically email risk@employersguardian.com. Usually that first email contains about 9% of all the necessary information we really need to get rolling. And that can result in us lots of phone calls. Clients have to stop working on current business priorities to address EG information requests that are coming at you via email and via phone calls. So we're trying to minimize that back and forth, and we're trying to get the information needed at the first pass, which ultimately saves everybody quite a bit of time. And clients, when they send the email, they then have to wait for a response with directions and with forms. The employee also has to wait for the client to get their ducks in a row and for us to get ours in a row and get them access to medical treatment. And the results are reporting deadlines can be missed, disruption to the manager's time, delayed treatment for the employee, and cost controls can be diminished. And when we're trying to control costs on an injury claim, we lay the groundwork in the first 30 days. The first 30 days is where we obtain control over our ability to control the costs. And some claims go on for months and even years. And the first 30 days is where we lay the foundation for controlling those costs. So injury reporting legal requirements review, let's talk a little bit about what needs to be documented when an injury comes through. So here's some requirements and deadlines to get started. All injuries requiring medical treatment must be reported to the insurance carrier within 24 hours. In most states, that doesn't apply to every state, but here in California, that's definitely true. And in other states, in most states, that's true. Injuries defined by OSHA as serious must be reported to OSHA. Those are rare, but a serious injury is defined as amputation, inpatient hospitalization, loss of an eye, or a fatality. The deadline to report something like that is 8 hours for fatalities and 24 hours for serious injuries. It's not easy to report within those deadlines when we don't have all the information we need. So this is about getting that information quickly so that if the client does want to report, we can do that. Either they can do it or we can do it, and we can do it on time. Let's talk a little bit about the injury documentation needed when somebody gets hurt. The first form that we have is the employee report of accident. This is where we collect the employee's perspective on what exactly happened. That may not be factual, but it is the employee's perspective. Treatment authorization form. We need to authorize treatment at an approved medical provider. State employee claim form for workers' compensation. The employee fills out the first half of the form, the employer fills out the second half. You don't have to fill out the second half anymore. The Injury Wizard does that for you. Declination of workers' comp and medical treatment. If the employee doesn't want to pursue medical treatment or workers' comp benefits, we have a form for that. You probably know that. The employee fills it out and it documents that we provided that state employee claim form for workers' compensation. The Form 5020 report of injury to the insurance carrier, that's something we do. You can see it's a pretty complex form, but that is all the information that the insurance carrier needs in order to process benefits. The accident investigation. This is OSHA's requirement for the employer to identify the root causes of injury and implement corrective actions. And we fill this out for you. This happens in the background. This happens later after you've reported it to us, but it is still a necessary component of documentation. And one of the most important ones, the witness statement. If there were witnesses, we want to get their side of the story in writing because that can be valuable, especially in there is, fraudulent claims being filed, and sometimes witness statements don't always corroborate. Last but not least, the OSHA 300 log, which is a log of the injuries that occur throughout a calendar year. We fill this out, and it's got to be reported to OSHA for statistical tracking. We do that. We send that to OSHA for you every year. We also send you a copy for your records. And these logs need to be maintained for 5 years, along with all the other ones. So how many people want to fill that stuff out? And I can see that the risk team is smiling. So, but the Injury Wizard makes all this stuff come together much easier. So let's talk a little bit about the purpose and the benefits of the Injury Wizard. We want to protect employees and clients from the impact of workplace injuries. That's our overarching goal. We want to provide clients immediate access to support 24/7. Whether EG is open or not, you have access to support. We want to obtain injury details quickly. We want to provide prompt medical care for the employee. We want to meet reporting requirements and deadlines where applicable. We want to minimize injury expenses. We want to eliminate fraud, hands down. And we want to improve collaboration with leave of absence. So one of the beautiful things about the Injury Wizard is that it will capture whether the employee is off work right at the time you report it, and it will automatically notify our leave department and create a leave of absence management case. More on that. The benefits: more efficient and effective injury support means more time for managers, lower insurance costs, and ultimately a happier workforce. That means you have immediate access to support 24/7 just by clicking a button and answering a few questions. Immediate medical treatment authorization is now available. Where you had to depend on us, now you don't. We still want to do it, but you have the ability to do it if our office hours are closed and it's of an urgent nature. Immediate access to pre-filled forms. When you finish the wizard, it's going to send you the forms, and they're going to be pre-filled with the information that we have so that you don't have to fill out anything. More timely reporting means better compliance and cost control. This ultimately results in reduced workers' comp rates over time. And again, seamless LOA collaboration. So when somebody's injured and they're off work, they may have other leave of absence protections that need to be addressed, and we're already working on it immediately as opposed to having to wait. So let's move into the Injury Wizard demonstration. We're going to dive into EG Force and take a look. So Risky Bobby got injured today, and it's pretty easy to go to let Employer's Guardian know now. If you click on employees and you locate his employee profile, much like the leave of absence wizard, we now have a new injury wizard here. We click on the new injury wizard button and it provides some basic instructions. This tool helps us quickly gather the details needed to expedite care for your injured employee, determine claim and OSHA requirements, and reduce injury costs. After completing the wizard, you'll receive the necessary injury forms with employer sections pre-filled and tailored guidance. EG will then investigate, report, and handle the injury care. The sooner we get the information, the better the outcome. So just a little bit of a disclaimer before we get started. And at any point during the injury wizard, if you feel like you don't have adequate information, you can click pause and it will save that record to your homepage. You can go collect the details and then come back. Most of what we're asking you should have, and you may not have precise answers, but you will have the ability to answer it closely to what we need. So screen one, tell us about the employee, when the injury or illness occurred, and who you'd like us to work with during our investigation. Provide information to the best of your knowledge. Information can be updated later if needed. That's important because, you know, there are going to be times where you want to say, I'm not entirely sure, but you can give us your best guess. So you'll see when you click the drop down, please provide the name of our primary contact. Your name will probably be pretty close to the top of the list, but you will have a list of all of your EG Force users from. Give us the date of injury. So we'll say today, and then give us the time. It'll pre-populate the time you launch this wizard, but maybe you need to change it, you can change it. Then please provide the date the employee notified of you of the injury. This is key because the date the employee notified you and the date you're reporting it have compliance concerns tied to it, as well as potential employee workers' comp fraud concerns. Next, please provide the name of the person the employee reported the injury to. We're going to say Tom Cruise. And please provide the names, affiliations, and contacts of any witnesses. And we're going to say Johnny Depp, and we're going to provide his phone number. And this is an optional field. You may or may not have witnesses, and you may or may not know at the time. That's okay. Move on to the next string or screen. Knowing more about the injury up front allows us to act quickly, protect employees, provide prompt medical treatment, reduce injury claim costs, and comply with requirements. Briefly tell us how the injury occurred. Bobby chopped off the tip of his middle and ring fingers on his right hand while trying to dislodge the product from the meat slicer. Next question. Please provide a description of where exactly the injury occurred. That's very helpful. And then please select the body part affected. So we know it was his finger. And because I selected finger, it produced a field that says left, right, or both. So now you can say right. And then you tell us the injury result that best applies. So in this case, you did tell us it's an amputation. And that may seem redundant to what you typed in, but these designations actually populate dashboards. We'll show you here in a minute. Please select the incident cause. So in this case, we know it was he got caught in equipment or object. And then please select the contributing factor that best matches the cause. You may not be entirely sure about this, but almost every injury has a contributing factor. It was a training deficiency, or it was an unsafe act, or it was an unsafe condition. All three of these give us the ability to go fix the problem and make it better for the future. So in this case, we're going to say unsafe act because we know he's been trained on lockout, tag out for that piece of equipment. Next up, we need to know if the employee has received medical treatment. This helps manage strict deadlines with your insurance carrier, OSHA, and arrange for treatment with appropriate medical provider or process benefits for lost time. So in emergencies, it's likely that they've already gone to the emergency room and the answer is going to be yes. But in this case, and because you selected yes, it's going to want to know the first date of treatment, who the physician is, if you know. But in most cases, it's going to be no, they haven't treated yet. And that's where some of the magic starts to happen. Is medical treatment needed? And you say yes. If you say yes, EG will authorize treatment at your designated medical clinic during normal business hours. If outside normal business hours, please click the link below to locate a preferred medical provider and authorize treatment. So you do have the ability to authorize treatment. We're not asking you to unless it's outside of business hours and it's urgent, but we have connected your primary designated medical clinic for the location your employee works at here. And in this case, it's a Concentra location. And if you click on it, it will take you to their details. You can call them and say, Risky Bobby's coming on down. He chopped off his finger. Now, maybe the employee is not working at a normal location. Maybe they work at a random construction site and maybe it's somewhere else. We have connected your workers' comp carrier's medical provider network, and you can search. You can click this link and you can type in the address. You can search by name or region, and that will give you a list of options based on a zip code or other criteria. So that can be very helpful as well. All right, so if you need authorization, these are your options here. Or if they've already treated, let's go back to that scenario. So they have already treated Risky Bobby, chopped off his finger. He went to the ER. We need to know when that happened. And, in that type of scenario, it's usually the same day that the injury occurred. Primary treating physician name. If you can get us close, that helps move us in the right direction. It helps us chase down the initial medical reports, which are going to be needed for OSHA potentially, or the insurance carrier. And if you have the address, great. If not, that's okay. You can move right on. And the next question now is, did the injury result in amputation, permanent disfigurement, inpatient hospitalization, loss of an eye, or a fatality? This is the definition that means that the employer is required to report it to OSHA, and it's got to be reported within 8 hours of your knowledge for death and 24 hours for anything else that meets the definition. And there is an exception to this rule. If it's vehicle to vehicle accident on a public roadway, that's not within OSHA's jurisdiction, so we've thrown that in there. But if the answer is yes, and that is the case with a finger amputation, you can see we've got some directions here. OSHA requires employers to report all severe work-related injuries within 8 hours, et cetera. We will send you an email notification with their contact info. I'll show you that in a minute. And the details you need to provide to finish the process. EG will report this on your behalf during normal business hours, but if the injury happens on a Friday at 4 o'clock, the odds of us being involved are slim, and you may want to do it yourself to avoid that potential $5,000 fine for reporting it late. So again, once you save this injury wizard, it's going to send you an email that I'll show you with very explicit directions. Next up, will the employee lose time from work? This is important because this is going to trigger our LOA process, and if the answer is yes. Was the employee paid in full for date of injury? You may not know. That's okay. If you don't know, click no. Click the no button. But the insurance carrier needs to know, because that's how we're going to process benefits, and it is best practice just pay them out through the rest of the day when they get injured on the job. All right, what was the employee's last day worked? That's going to be important, and that is the detail we need to determine when benefits are going to get paid. Is the employee enrolled in company health benefits? This is going to be an important question that the leave of absence team needs to process the leave effectively. And who is our primary contact for the LOA, if not the injury case contact? So maybe your safety officer is reporting this, but you have somebody who works with HR directly on the leaves, and they can pick from a list of EG Force users here. And then we move on. Is the employee working variable hours? We need to know this because this is how they're going to get paid by the workers' comp carrier, and it's also going to dictate what type of leave they may qualify for. So in most cases, it's going to be a set schedule. And in a set schedule, you just tell us the days they work, check the boxes, and then you can drop in, usually it's going to be 8 hours a day. And then the next question we need to know is, did the employee work 1,250 hours in the last 12 months? That's a qualifier for FMLA and CFRA benefits. So if they're a full-time employee, the answer is almost always going to be yes. Next up, we're almost done here. This is our reminder that fraud is serious business, and you can see some statistics here. It's a $30 billion problem in the United States, and it's in California, it's 1 to 3 billion. So if you have any reason to doubt the validity of the injury, you can pop in your concerns here, and that will give us notice that you want to investigate further and consider dispute. And then you have one more opportunity to drop in any additional concerns, comments that you want us to know about. And once you submit the injury, it's going to immediately generate an email to you and to the risk team. So within seconds, the risk team has the new injury in their queue, and they're going to get in, take ownership of it, and get right to work. Also within seconds, you're going to be right on the injury case, and you will be, if you happen to have the signed injury forms already, you can click on files and you can upload them to the files tab. That's not likely going to be the case. And so I'm going to move over to my email inbox, and you can see I've already received the OSHA reporting instructions. So everything you put into that wizard and all the information we have about your organization and where the employee works and all that stuff is listed here. So you've got some instructions. You've got the questions that OSHA is going to ask you if you call it in and report it. And you have a link to your local OSHA office. So this link takes you to a map, and we'll say if you're in California, you can, we'll say you're here, you've got all the California district offices, and you're going to pick the office that is closest to you and call it in using this as your script. Again, we are more than happy to report it for you. In fact, we'd prefer to do it. This is just in case it happens on the weekend. It's a fail safe. So that's the first email, and now we can look at the second email. So I've got this email that is providing me with some basic instructions on which forms need to be filled out: the employee report of injury, the employee claim form for workers' comp benefits, and the denial of medical treatment benefits. So, as a reminder, if you emailed risk, today, if you email risk, it might take you an hour or two maybe to get this email back. Now you have it instantaneously. So if I click on this, I can open up the file and grab the forms. And probably the most important form is this DWC1 form. And so I'll zoom in a little bit. You can see the employer section is pre-filled out. This is the information that most of our clients don't have immediately handy, but we do. So it's all filled out. Now you just need to get the employee to fill out their portion. And that's just one example of how the of the fields that get mapped. So there are other forms as well that map the employee detail and other things into the forms that are going to be helpful and speed up the process. All right. So I just showed you a little bit about the immediate notification to risk and also immediate email notification to the client, pre-filled forms. You also get an immediate notification of serious injury requirements with directions. And you will also receive an automatic client task to provide completed injury forms from the employee. This is just a reminder email that goes out weekly every Friday that says, hey, don't forget to upload the completed injury forms. Those documents are critical to getting the best results. All right, we're almost done here. A lot of the information captured in this wizard, but just some of that information, and then a lot of our investigation that happens afterwards is going to result in injury dashboards. And I'm not sure if you've looked at the dashboards tab in EG Force yet, but there is now a safety tab. And these dashboards help to isolate and eliminate injuries by showing you statistics by cause and by expense. So I can see in this top one, I can see lost work days by cause last 5 years. And I can see that 70% of my lost work days are caused by fall to same level. That's actionable information. We can actually do something about that, right? I can see here that the majority of my injuries are caused by struck by an object. That's something that we can pinpoint and find out why that's happening, and we can go fix that, and we can prevent injuries in the future. We also have modified duty days by cause. This is modified duty days are disruptive. Lost work days are really disruptive, but mod duty days are disruptive as well. So we can measure all of these things and prioritize how are we going to make our safety program better. Improving safety is dependent on accurate information, and we need your help. We can get some of it, and we can get, we can investigate, and we can get great information with partnership from our clients and in some cases witnesses and the employee as well. So, but measuring results is what it's all about, and speeding up injury treatment and everything else. So that is the injury wizard. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to take a look at this. This is the first go around. We are going to be soliciting feedback from our clients on how we can continue to make it better and more efficient for you and a better experience. I'm going to open it up to questions now. Hopefully we've got some in the chat. Brady, do we have any questions from anybody? Wonderful.
We do. So Luigi asked, so when you're, I think it's the third screen within the injury wizard, and you're selecting the types of injuries, can multiple be selected, or is only one option available?
That's a great question, Luigi. At the moment, we want the most appropriate option. There are times where multiple would be appropriate. We see that all the time. We're trying to get down to these dashboards. It's hard to build a dashboard with multiple options selected, and we're not quite there yet. I think we will be at some point. But for now, we just want to pick the most I would say the most severe one. So let's say we saw this the other day. The employee got their foot run over, but they fell down and strained their back. And the most severe injury is the one we would pick there. Now, in that field supports the dashboard, but there's going to, when the risk team does their investigation, they're going to be capturing all of that detail elsewhere in fields that aren't capable of producing a dashboard per se, but they are critical in our management of the insurance claim and things like that. And those fields are also visible to you on the employee's injury case within EG Force.
Thanks, Aaron. The next question is from Dusty. If the employee works variable hours, is it best to leave that section blank?
So there was an option and I skipped it. I chose to use what was it, standard hours, and we selected the days. If they worked variable hours, it's going to ask you instead to say, well, what are their average hours per week? And that's all it asks for. So and it's just your best guess. We can figure that out later, but we need to tell the insurance carrier something within a day. So just provide your best guess there, and we'll adjust as we go.
Perfect.
Great
The next
question.
question is from Luigi. On the emails that go out, can you set up a list of people in the organization that will receive those emails?
That's also a great question, Luigi. And I didn't mention this, but if it's a serious injury, it meets the definition of OSHA serious. That email goes to the person who completed the wizard, and it also goes to all the officer partners within the organization. We are not messing around with that one. Somebody needs to make a decision quick, and it has, it could have $100,000 or more in financial implications.
Great. Another email question from Dusty. Does the OSHA email go out every time or just if the wizard is completed outside of EG business hours?
It goes out every time if you select, yes, it was a serious injury. And if you look at the detail, we go back and look at the body of the email, it's pretty clear. Hey, we want to do that. We want to report this for you. But if it's outside of business hours, you really probably should do it. If it's not, if you want us to do it anyways, let us know and we will do it. So it's going to require a response and a decision from somebody. And that, again, that email is going to go to the person who completed the wizard and all the officer partners as well.
Great. The next question is from Melanie. How will this interact with handling LOA or managed time off due to injury?
Fantastic. So the creation of the injury is going, and some of those questions we went through, if you said, yes, they have lost time from work, that triggers an LOA case assignment to our LOA team. It triggers the tasks associated with that LOA. And if you also would have told us, what their hours are, and that helps us manage the leave. The LOA works in tandem with elements for tracking intermittent time off. That's a separate process, but the main part of the Injury Wizard collaboration with LOA is it lets LOA team know, and it produces a leave of absence case whenever certain criteria are met. So if the employee is off work, it creates the case. If the employee has a scheduled follow-up visit, it establishes when the LOA might be able to be closed as complete because they should be returning to work that day. It has a number of different intricacies that keep the LOA team informed as to what's going on with the injury treatment and the workers' comp claim.
Great. And our last question is from Tina. Can a lead or manager complete a report if the employee doesn't report to them directly, i.e. on a weekend or an evening incident?
If they have EG Force access, they can create they can complete the Injury Wizard for somebody that they have the ability to see in the system.
Are there any additional questions? You can post them in the chat window or in the Q&A section. Oh, it looks like Tom has a question.
It's impressive that you can manage both the Q&A feed and the chat feed, Brady. You have better multitasking skills than I do.
All right. Tom says, do you have to report any injury no matter how severe?
That depends on so when an injury occurs, if it requires medical treatment, in most states, you're required to report it to your insurance carrier and file a workers' comp claim. That's 99% of the time that has to be reported. Unless the employee says, no, I decline, I don't want medical treatment, and they want to deal with it on their own. Those are usually very minor injuries. If it's the other reporting consideration is OSHA. So if it's a serious injury involving permanent disfigurement, amputation, loss of an eye, hospitalization for purposes other than just observation, and then of course a fatality, it has to be reported to OSHA. So there's two reporting considerations. One is insurance, the other is OSHA.
Great. And then Larry asks, when does the Injury Wizard go live?
It is live now. You guys are welcome to use it immediately, and we will be going forward. We will be encouraging clients to use it. So for requests that come into the Risk box, Risk has a template email they're going to send you with a link directly to your employee's profile page, and they're also going to offer you the opportunity to go through some hand holding. So if you'd like to hop on the phone and have them guide you through the process, we'd be happy to do that.
Perfect. Does anyone have any more questions? Well, Alfred says, do we have to log in to the existing link?
That's a great question. So, if you're not currently logged into EG Force when you need to do this, or when you call us and if we send you that link, you'll click the link. It'll say, please log in first. And once you log in, it'll take you right to the employee profile. If you're already logged into EG Force, and I know a lot of you out there, have EG Force going, sometimes daily. If you're already in there and you click the link we send you, you're not going to have to log in again. It's just going to take you right to the record.
Okay. Let's see. I think we'll give it just a little bit more for additional questions.
Sure.
Okay. Larry says, will this video be available for us to use and review at a later time?
That's funny. I was just going to say that. So we are recording this. We are going to pop it into a mass email to everybody. I think you're even going to embed the video into the email, right, Brady? Or is it going to be a clickable link?
The email will be embedded, and they're also able to use the link that will be available as well if they'd like to view it in a different format.
Yeah, we're going to be putting it, so she'll give you a link in the mass email. We're also going to be placing it in the knowledge base within EG Force for those of you who like to use that for, checking in. And then we are going to be releasing a new injury reporting fundamentals training video here in the next day or two. It's part of our safety officer training series, and that'll be out there as well. And it will include it's being updated because it needs to factor in the Injury Wizard considerations.
And Aaron, we've got two more questions from Jim. Does the wizard tell you when you need to contact OSHA versus when you do not need to contact OSHA?
Yeah, so Jim, it only tells you need to contact OSHA if you selected yes to the question, does it meet this criteria? Amputation, permanent disfigurement, hospitalization, loss of an eye, or fatality. If you don't select yes to that question, then you're not going to get the OSHA serious notification.
Okay. And then what happens if the employee doesn't want to go to the doctor, but the employer considers it necessary?
That's a great question as well. the employer cannot force the employee to go to the doctor. We'll start there. If the employee doesn't want to go to the doctor, some employers would consider that a favor. Um, but that's when you want them to fill out that declination so that you've documented that you've given them the state required employee claim form for workers' compensation. And a lot of times those employees, they don't want to do it now, but then the injury goes and it exacerbates, and then they come back later and it's worse than it would have been had they gone. So we're not trying to discourage employees from going to the doctor, but if it's minor and they don't want to go, the declination is fine. And the wizard gives you those forms to hand them right on the spot. So the idea is, you don't have to wait for us to give you those forms. You don't have to go look for them in the knowledge base in EG Force or, buried in your computer somewhere. All you got to do is answer the questions. You'll get the email with everything you need in an instant.
Okay. Looks like that might be all the questions.
All right. Well, that's good. That's healthy. It looks like we're at 45 minutes. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Like I said, this will be a work in progress like everything else EG does. It's going to get better over time, and we really depend on you and your feedback to continue to improve and make your experience better. So let us know what you need, and we're here. Thank you, everybody. Oh, one more question, maybe? I saw a hand raise. Maybe that was a goodbye. Either way, thanks again, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful day. And like I said, let us know what you need.